This feels like a memory foam pillow, but like medium, where like you just sink into it, but it still supports you.
Yeah.
Like it feels like you're at a dope hotel. This dough feels like, you know those stress balls that you squeeze that like give, but they're soft? Am I writing a poem? Good morning, I'm Alison Roman, and today I'm gonna be making cinnamon rolls. They are not sticky buns, but they are sticky. They don't have frosting, but it's still a cinnamon bun. I think you're gonna really love them. This is not a recipe that's like, could throw together today to eat later. To me, this is like definitely a project, and project recipes are not really my forte. I'm a very impatient baker. I'm a very impatient cook. When I'm hungry, I want something now. But there is something really nice about having something to look forward to. You make the dough knowing that tomorrow you're gonna get to eat it. And that feels, I don't know, very special to me. I do need my stand mixer, a tool that I almost never call for unless I really mean it. And breads like this, I feel like really warrant it. I can't imagine it's like a fun, easy time to make this dough by hand, but you can. I'm not gonna do that. I am using a dough hook. This should not be done with any other attachment. Anytime I'm baking in a KitchenAid, I like to start with my wet ingredients on the bottom. The reason being is that as things mix, the dry ingredients go on top and they incorporate into the wet rather than the wet ingredients sitting on top of the dry, because then I feel like you always have that pile of dry ingredients at the bottom that never get fully incorporated. I was taught that as a wee pastry chef. I've already talked about buttermilk. You know how I feel.
Previously on Home Movies.
Buttermilk, if I may. Buttermilk, buttermilk, buttermilk. So there's a cup of buttermilk in here. So directly in here, I'm gonna add 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast. That is essentially 1 packet. And then 1/4 cup of regular granulated sugar is gonna go in there as well. So I'm just whisking this together. I feel like baking is like 90% science and like 5% opinion and 5% luck. In this bowl, I'm gonna go ahead and measure our dry ingredients. 3 3/4 cup of flour. If you'd like to weigh it with the scale, I highly recommend. I will say that 99% of baking errors occur because of a mismeasurement of flour. But I scoop and level. Scoop and level. Scoop and level. You say 550?
540.
Ooh! 535, baby! I love this game. Honestly, 5 grams, I'll take it. Hell yeah, that's fantastic. I'm not even gonna add the extra 5 grams. Because that's what, like, oh, let's see what it is. Let's just see. Is it a teaspoon? It might be a teaspoon of flour. A teaspoon and 1/4. Yeah, teaspoon and 1/4. So I was off by a teaspoon and 1/4, that's fine. That's not gonna make or break your buns. Or your rolls, whatever we're calling them. God, I love to be right. And then in here is also gonna go 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder and 1 1/2 teaspoons of kosher salt. I'm not even gonna whisk this. I'll just kind of like with my hands do that, but it's all gonna go in there. All right, and I'm gonna mix this starting on low because I don't want the flour to go everywhere. You can kind of, if you want, like take a little tool and just kind of encourage the flour around the ends to kind of get involved. Little wallflowers. Mingle a little bit. Make some new friends. I love the wallflowers. And this just kind of gives the dough to like develop a little bit of gluten, makes it strong. Have you ever had a cinnamon bun that just kind of like breaks apart, almost like a biscuit, where there's no gluten developed? You kind of want like a pillowy soft, like when you pull it, it kind of like stretches a little bit elegantly. That's gluten development. So I'll show you what this looks like. It's not much to look at. It looks like pie dough. And at this stage, I'll just make sure that like the driest bits on the bottom are kind of just, again, like getting some equal attention. And now I'm gonna add the eggs. I'm gonna add them 1 at a time, so I'll crack 1 in. You're basically just waiting until most of the egg is incorporated before adding the second. The reason you do that is because if you add both right now, essentially it'll just be like those dry bits of dough swimming in egg. It looks like a little bit of a soupy mess, but it'll start to come together. I'm gonna turn the mixer up to medium, which is gonna become very loud, but what are you gonna do? Bread dough takes time, especially in rich dough, so be patient. I mean, it looks like shit right now, but it's gonna come together really nicely. It should take anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. 3 to 5 minutes. I'm not gonna stray too far because I don't want this to fall off my counter, which has happened to me before. One time I broke my foot. I had the mixer going like this at a very high speed, and I saw it out of the corner of my eye start to shake off the table, and I went to go catch it, and it fell on my foot and crushed all of the bones in my foot. Cool story. I'm gonna cut this into 1-inch pieces, and that's just so they incorporate nicely without adding like a stick of butter, which would just take too long. And I'm gonna let it mix just a few more minutes before I start to add the butter. Okay, as you work the dough, it is gonna stiffen up. Waiting for the dough to come together and like hear that slapping sound is very important. And once more for the back, in case you couldn't hear it. Slapping around the bowl. It's kind of hot. Basically, before you add the butter, you want it to look like this. It's cleaned the sides of the bowl, and sort of 1 or 2 pieces at a time, I'm gonna add this butter. That sound is so good to me. And you can see the butter working its way into the dough. And what the butter does, it's like buttering your toast versus not buttering your toast. It's gonna add hydration, it's gonna add flavor. I love cooking. I do. It's the only earnest thing about me is my love for cooking and food. It smells so good already. I love eating raw dough. I love eating raw pie dough. I love eating raw biscuit dough. I love eating raw enriched dough, like a brioche dough or the cinnamon bun dough. Raw challah. God, I love eating raw dough. It tastes good to me. I forgot how happy doing this makes me. I really do love doing this. Notice that now the dough is looking like one ball and it's slapping again. When the dough slaps, you know it's ready. Words to live by. It's like, you know, it's a sticky, tacky dough, but it's not wet. I find that a high hydration, which means, you know, more liquid than usual maybe, is important for cinnamon rolls because they get so dry so quickly. I don't have any nonstick spray right now. I ran out, but I'm just gonna use a little bit of neutral oil to slick the bottom. If you had more room temp butter, you could grease the bowl that way. And I'm using the original use for the dough scraper, which is to scrape dough from a bowl. If you didn't have this, you could use a spatula or just use your hands. And I just like to tuck it into one neat little ball. So the texture of this dough right now, as you can see, like I can do that to it without it sticking to my hands, which is nice, but it feels so good. And it's stretchy, like I can do this and it holds. I'm just doing this to play with it. There's no rhyme or reason. I'm really pleased with this dough. I'm gonna put this in the refrigerator for 12 to 24 hours. I have something to tell you. I don't wanna lie. I made this dough last night. Not this dough, another dough. I made another dough last night because I didn't wanna wait or pretend. The bowl's different. I'm not changing outfits. We're not gonna pretend it's tomorrow. It's today. I'll do something with this dough tomorrow, but in the meantime, playing the role of this dough will be this dough. This dough is different than the other dough. Look how puffy it is. So see, there's like air bubbles that have already happened in it. It's proofed, it's risen. It's almost doubled in size comparatively to the other bowl. Cool, are we ready for this? So in our filling, a cup of light brown sugar. I like to measure it like this in a bowl so it doesn't go all over my counter. And as I measure, I just kind of lightly pack. If you have a little bit more, that's fine. A tablespoon of cinnamon, which I know sounds like a lot, but it's really not. This might be the last of my cinnamon. 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. And then I'm just gonna mix it like that. And I'm gonna melt this stick of butter. I'm just melting it in a skillet. You can use a pot, you can use a microwave, you can use whatever you want. So I'm gonna use a 9-inch cake pan and a standard 9x4-ish loaf pan. And to prepare these, I, again, don't have any nonstick spray, but I'm just gonna use a little bit of neutral oil to slick the bottom. And this is one of 2 times we're gonna add maple syrup. The first time is in the bottom of the pan, and that's just a thin layer. And then once they come out of the oven, we're gonna brush the tops of them. Not unlike a babka gets brushed with syrup. And that creates like a sticky glaze that almost sets immediately on that hard dough, becomes really shiny, and just, again, makes them, and I can't stress this enough, sticky. It'll also soak into the dough rather than brown sugar, which might just get hard as it bakes. So that's all you need to do. I'll just set those aside. All right, it's time to roll. Let's roll. What a bad joke. Okay, I'm gonna dust my work surface with a little bit of flour, not too much. This dough doesn't need it, but you can see already like how it's proofed while it was in that fridge. Like it has, you know, air bubbles, and that's from the slow rise. A slow rise is also nice for developing flavor. All right, so I'll test the top. It feels really good. I can pick it up, you know, I'll toss it a few times, give it a light dusting a few times. So I'm gonna roll this about 12 inches long and 24 inches wide. So you see it's like very forgiving. It's letting me roll out very easily. It's not springing back. And it doesn't need to be perfect. And I'm just gonna give it one more final dusting because the worst is when you fill it and then you try and roll it and it's stuck to the counter. And also kind of picking it up and letting it relax again helps it just become like, you know, its truest shape of a rectangle instead of forcing it to be a shape that it doesn't want to be. And now is the fun part. It's all kind of fun to me. I don't know if you can tell I'm having an absolute blast. Brush the whole thing with butter. You want this butter to be cool. If it's hot, it will effectively melt the butter in the dough and become really challenging to work with. And you can get a little messy with it. They're not meant to be like a perfect, pristine treat, in my opinion. And then sprinkle. And this should be as even as possible. It's not gonna be perfect, and that's fine. It feels very nice to do. And then to roll, I always like to start with the edge closest to me rather than rolling towards me. I wanna roll away from me. And that first little tuck is kind of important. That's what's gonna be the center of our little sticky bun. Just go slow. If you're nervous, if you've never done this before, just go slow. You're not in a rush. And then encourage the ends to kind of stay in line by pulling them slightly. And when you're doing this, make sure that you are rolling on a surface that you can cut on because you don't want to transfer this too many times. All right, so I'm gonna basically just go in half first, and then I'm gonna cut it in half again. And then because we want each cinnamon bun to be what, 2 inches? So I'll cut each of these in half again, and then each one in half. And that's a cinnamon bun. So don't worry if they look pinched or a little weird like that. They will, as they proof and bake, they will absolutely fill out. And when you're putting these in, I'm leaving quite a bit of space here, but that's exactly how much they're gonna grow. They're about 1 inch to 1.5 inches apart, except for these ones in the middle. So these are gonna get tented a little bit with plastic wrap, and they're gonna be left to proof. You don't need to wrap them crazy tight. And I'm gonna proof these for about 1 hour to 1.5 hours. I am gonna put this on top of the stove. It's just a lot warmer than it is here on this countertop. I don't wanna add any extra heat over here. I just kinda wanna let them rise naturally. So we'll check back in like 1 hour. Bye. Welcome back. The cinnamon rolls are proofed. I'm gonna show you what they should look like, and we're gonna put up on the screen what they used to look like versus what they look like now, which will be helpful, hopefully. But you can see that they're touching. Before, they were not touching. So these are gonna go into a 350-degree oven. We are gonna bake them for 25 to 30 minutes. As soon as they come out, while they're still hot, I'm gonna brush them with more maple syrup, sprinkle with a little bit of flaky salt, and let them cool slightly before we eat them. All right, they're going in. Cool. Siri, set a timer for 25 minutes.
Timer set for 25 minutes. You better give me a cinnamon roll.
My cinnamon rolls have been in the oven for 35 minutes, almost to the minute, and they're ready to come out. I'm gonna hit them with maple syrup right now because as they cool, that maple syrup will harden just a little bit and they'll become like a shiny, sticky glaze. And you don't need to go crazy. It's just like, give them a little love, a little attention. This is fun. I'm having fun. And then I'm gonna sprinkle some salt on top. I'm gonna eat it. Which one should we cut into? It's still a little warm. Woo! Too warm. But see how it's like fluffy and pull-aparty and like not too wet in the center? I like the middle part. But actually I like the end parts too because they're a bit crunchier. But they should be like flaky upon each roll, but each layer, even though it's thin, should like be like very light. It's so good. It's such a good cinnamon roll. It's not too sweet. It doesn't have like gobs of frosting on it, which I'm like, fine if you're a cake, not fine if you're a cinnamon roll. And it doesn't feel overly indulgent. It doesn't have like a caramely sticky mess. It's just like lightly sticky, lightly sweetened, perfectly buttery. It's, I don't know, I think it's perfect. And those are the buns. I think that a lot of desserts and pastries are like bound by the tyranny of perfection, and I want to free the cinnamon bun. I want people to feel like it can be any size, shape, unevenness, whatever they want. It's still going to be delicious. Free the cinnamon bun.